Okay, a very good afternoon to all audience. I am Dr. Faiz Baharudin. I welcome all of you to our first ever complimentary webinar for our upcoming ACOH, okay, which will be held in Borneo Convention Center, Kuching, on 5th to 8th August. Okay, for information, today is our first webinar with title of Overview of Aviation Medicine, okay, by Datuk Dr. Mohammad Razin bin Kamarulzaman. I will actually give some introduction about Datuk Dr. Mohammad Razin bin Kamarulzaman. Datuk Dr. Mohammad Razin bin Kamarulzaman is a graduate of Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. He served in the Malaysia Armed Forces between 1994 to 2018, where he developed the interest in aviation medicine. He is now with Malaysia Aviation Group in the dual capacity as Head of Group Safety and Security and the Airline Medical Doctor. So without further ado, let me pass the platform to Datuk Dr. Mohammad Razin to continue with his presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Faiz. Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize. Somehow my camera has been knocked off on this presentation, so you will hear me, but maybe you will not see my features. I think enough of my posters on the page. Anyway, thanks for the invite by the organizing committee, AOEMM, as well as the upcoming ACOH Congress in August 2026 in Kuching. Yeah, so I'm sure it's going to be a successful and a very exciting one in terms of knowledge exchange. That is me. Just a quick objective of this presentation is to provide an overview of aviation medicine practice as requested. Some small disclosure there. I have no financial aid in doing this, and I am an employee of Malaysia Aviation Group, as well as the views here are personal views, not of the company. Okay, the scope of presentation, is a bit of introduction of the group and what I do, and then we will talk about civil aviation medicine, career pathway, and then the airline medicine, really on crew care, passenger care, occupational medicine, public health, and a bit on military aviation medicine, and hope at the end we will draw to a conclusion. This is the Malaysia Aviation Group company profile. We are a holding group of Khazanah, which is investment arm of Ministry of Finance Malaysia. And post-COVID, we restructured in 2023 into 3 revenue streams to reduce our exposure to another pandemic and so on. So we have the airlines businesses where Malaysia Airlines, Maswings and Firefly are operating airlines with Amal, a commercial entity under the Malaysia Airlines, which does the Hajj and Umrah package. Yeah. Under the loyalty travel services, we have Enrich, Journeyfy, Malaysian Holidays, MH Holidays, and so on. This is more of a commercial arm, non-operational back-end staff, and far most on our right is the aviation services, where we have the ground handling, Aerodarat, Malaysia Mass Cargo, Malaysia, the academy, as well as the engineering, maintenance, repair, and overhaul organization. Roughly, ballpark figures, we have 13,000 employees in Malaysia Aviation Group, close to 8,500 are operationals and 4,500 are non-operational staff, close to 1,500 pilots, through 2,700 cabin crews, 4,000 engineers, and about 1,000 technicians. We have close to 115 aircrafts in the inventory, 112 passenger aircraft and 3 freighter aircrafts. Yeah. Our destinations are domestic Malaysia, Asia Pacific region. In Europe, we restarted Paris, and we've always done London, and we also capitalize on our One World network of 14 airlines, which provides us the coverage of more than 400 destinations. So as an organizational structure, in terms of safety health organization structure, personally, I am with the Group Managing Director's Office at the group level, at strategic level of safety and security, at the same time, as well as health. I'm also a practicing aviation doctor. I have communications and connections with the our cybersecurity team under the group IT, and the security in the airlines pillar. Okay, and each of the airlines would have their safety health setup as listed as corporate safety oversight there for MAB Firefly Maswing, as well as in the aviation service, another operational area. There are also safety, quality assurance, and health people. Okay, so as depicted, the yellow National Geographic box are safety health positions, and the red is the security, cyber security positions. Sort of an integrated approach to things, but because of regulatory requirements, there are safety managers in each operational units. So coming back to what is aviation medicine, right? The closest definition I could get was from the ACOH manual, where there is an aviation medicine unit in the International Civil Aviation Organization, which states that aviation medicine is a medical specialty which combines aspects of preventive, occupational, environmental, and clinical medicine with the physiology and psychology of men in flight. It is concerned with the health and safety of those who fly, both crew and passengers, as well as the selection and performance of those who hold aviation licenses. Depending on countries or member states, some aviation medicine are considered a specialty. In other countries, it's more of a special interest or a practice, right? In Malaysia, for example, we are more of practitioners rather than a specialty group or recognized under KKM and whatsoever. I'm being humble here, yeah. We are really jacks of all trades and masters of none. As you can see, the scope of care is pretty wide, considering preventive, occupational, clinical medicine, and so on and so forth, and public health, really. Okay, so some of you may or may not be interested on career pathway as an aviation medicine practitioner. This is in Malaysia in particular. You can go to the Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia's website, and where you can find this under publication, Civil Aviation Directive 1004 on medical requirements, not only for pilots and crew or license holders, but how to become a designated medical examiner. You'd have to be a medical officer, attend a postgraduate training in aviation medicine. The one that's recognized all over the world now is Diploma in Aviation Medicine UK. 12 months field experience before you go to that course. There's a criteria for that, or other CAM recognized FMED courses, right? You can communicate with the Chief Medical Assessor now, Dr. Shan. He will provide you more guidance. And before you sign on as a medical officer, you really want to have to be an understudy for about 6 months, and as you apply as a designated medical examiner, there will be a clinic audit, there will be a clinical audit of your knowledge, and there's also a 3-yearly surveillance audit of your practice. You'd also have to meet your APC requirement and also the CPD requirements, particularly in the aviation medicine and general medicine areas. Yeah. Military aviation medicine, my counterpart on the other side of the service, yeah, led by Brigadier General Dr. Haiza at the Institute of Aviation Medicine. They are guided by the Chief of Air Force Directive, and also the Armed Forces Medical Administration and Technical Instructions, or AHMATI in short. So as a medical officer, what happens is sometimes it's random, sometimes people have this vocation to do aviation medicine. You go through a local basic aviation medicine course of 2 weeks called BEMO, Basic Aviation Medicine Medical Officer course. And if you get the opportunity, attend an overseas exchange program conducted by the Royal Air Force, US Air Force, or the Royal Australian Air Force. Yeah. And having done that, you are assigned to any of the RMAF bases or Royal Malaysian Air Force bases, and most would progress to the Institute of Aviation Medicine. Along the way, you may also apply as a designated medical examiner on recommendation of the director of the institute, with the approval from the CAAM Director of Flight Operations. So that's with regards to applying to do to become a designated medical examiner. So now we go to the civil aviation medicine per se. So internationally is governed by the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, United Nations Technical Agency. Many years ago, many countries signed this, attended this conference and signed the Chicago Convention 1944. With it came out articles and standards and recommended practices, and it's divided into 19 volumes or annexes, as it's called. Malaysia is a member state of ICAO. We sign up and ratified, and it is under the ambit of the Ministry of Transport. And particularly for the regulator is the Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia, or we call it CAM in Malaysia, right? It's bounded by the Civil Aviation Act of 1969, Civil Aviation Regulation 216, and the documents are cascaded downwards at operational level. Okay. In particular, Annex 1, it mentions about personal licensing, and also in the ICAO document 8984, there's a manual of civil aviation medicine, right? It stipulates there license holders. License holders are pilots and also air traffic controllers, right? Need to have their license, as well as there are medical requirements for them to hold their license, right? So that's how the medical practice is involved in aviation, civil aviation per se, due to humans who continue to fly aeroplane. As long as humans fly aeroplane, the medical requirement is there. This is basically a risk mitigation measure to ensure that the human is fit and healthy to fly the aeroplanes, right? So right from the beginning, when they enter as a student pilots, they undergo a medical class 1 when as a student pilot license, if they are going to become a commercial pilot or airline transport pilot, right? And as they become commercial pilots, the medical class 1 certificate holds for even for their commercial pilot license or air transport pilot license. If you're a private pilot, you hold a medical class 2. And if you're an air traffic controller, you hold a medical class 3 license. So that's how it is. And this practice is internationally practiced to a member state of an ICAO, to the ICAO. I've reflected some of the documents on the pages there. As we go along, who are the people in civil aviation medicine? I've truncated or portioned it into the Chief Medical Assessor, who works at the regulatory level with CAM under the Flight Operations Division. He sets the standards as per ICAO Annex 1, and then formulate and review the processes, audits and appoints DME, conduct assessment of fitness to fly himself or return to flying, and chair the CAM Medical Board. At present, Dr. Shan, my colleague, is sitting at that position. He is assisted by the safety inspectors and also the Director of Flight Operations in CAM himself. And those doctors who have interest in practicing as aviation medicine practitioner are called designated medical examiners, and they are appointed and they provide the DME services to pilots, air traffic controllers. And in Malaysia, we've also asked our cabin crew to do their medicals as per medical class 2 certificate standards. Right, some of my colleagues in the designated medical examiners are also providing general practices, general practitioner and occupational health services. Okay. As an airline doctor, at present only Malaysia Airlines employ an airline doctor. Unfortunately, others do not. They have general practice and OSH, but not an airline doctor at present. I am not doing DME work at present because of my double head, but I do review cases from time to time, right? So the ambit here is FMED, occupational safety health, public health, support airlines medical health needs, passenger clearance, stretcher cases, review of policies and program implementation, and also provide designated medical examiner services. It depends. Most airlines have that. At present, I don't do the service. So in terms of airline medicine itself, right, we talk about the regulator, the DME, and airlines. So I'm just going to deep dive a bit deeper on crew care here. And again, as the reference from personal licensing, PEL 1, as well as medical requirements, which is the Civil Aviation Directive 1004. It stipulates the standards, talks about the processes of medical class 1, class 2, class 3, when it's done in initial, periodic medical conditions, fitness to fly, and also when the pilot sick report or have chronic medical conditions, how are they managed. Similarly, for cabin crew, since 2017, CAM has directed for all cabin crew operating in Malaysia to also hold a medical certificate, although they do not have a license, but they have attestation card for their competencies in terms of safety and service. So I think it's a good preventive practice of them being certified under medical certificate class 2, right? So similarly, they have an initial periodic medical condition, fitness to fly, and sick report, and this is on risk-based assessment. The first criteria is age. As you are aware, our cabin crew ranges from the age of 20 up to 59. So if you are 20 to 40 is every 5 years, 40 to 50 every 2 years, and 50 to 60 every 1 year, unless you have a medical condition where the risk is managed in a closer interval. Okay. I don't know whether this crew care or under occupational health or preventive care, but I just dumped in this ergonomics risk review assessment. We have in our inventory as well a Twin Otter Viking DHC de Havilland 6400. Crew complaining of backache due to their operations. Then we do survey, have a look, inspection, man-machine management of operations. If there are any pre-existing conditions, height, weight, reach, the machine itself, the flight display, the controls, the seat, ingress, egress, how to move into the aircraft, how to jump out of the aircraft, and number of sectors they fly a day, between 6 to 8 sectors, duration of flight between 8 to 11 hours, right? So all that is taken into account. Discussion is done with the safety and management and engineering, should there be any adjustment or modification needed. Okay. If you don't mind, I will answer the questions at the end of the presentation during the Q&A, sir. Thank you. Right. So other areas, fatigue risk. It's a 7-11. It's a 24-hour operations, right? depending on the airline's operations. So crew roster are regulated. Yeah, CAM comes out with the crew roster under flight time limitation CAD 1902, where if they operate a certain sectors, they can only fly a certain amount of hours. If they operate, four sectors, then they can fly 11. As example, if they operate only two sectors, they can fly 12 hours and so on. Yeah. So the fatigue definition in the aviation, is degradation of performance as a result of sleep loss, extended wakefulness, circadian rhythm, workload. Workload can be physical or mental, right? And roster is not a shift. Roster is something that produced 10 days before the start of the month, and your roster will be varied, very varied, but you get 8 days in a month, compulsory weekends leave, but the weekends can be a Wednesday, Thursday. It's not like our day-to-day 9 to 5 workers. Yeah, they can be waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to report for 6 o'clock and fly at 7 o'clock, or they can be reporting at 12 in the afternoon for a 2 o'clock flight, or they can be reporting at 10 at night for a midnight flight, and so on and so forth. And it's very random and very jumbled up. So because of this, the workforce planning and roster is carefully scrutinized. A lot of education and awareness on fatigue and fatigue countermeasures, how sleep hygiene, sleep environment, and mitigation measures on board. You have, if the flight duration is more than 11 hours, you would have 2 sets of crews, 2 captains and 2 co-pilots. Augmented crew is a 3rd pilot in certain flights, and they are also allowed to have cockpit rest and also in-flight rest. Okay, in the A350, there are bunks of 2 beds where the Team A or Team B can sleep in between the flights. Right, so this is closely monitored by the Fatigue Risk Safety Action Group. So it's a safety action group. The medical is there to give medical advice on, if it's medically related situation and so on and so forth, right? Yeah, so we'll talk a bit on passenger care. This is Malaysian hospitality. If we do it wrong, it becomes a Malaysian hospital. Okay, so safety is important, and having to actually ensure the flight is safe is the most important thing, right? Passenger travel is close to 4 billion a year. Before COVID, it was like 3.5, and in years to come, is projected to be 7 billion a year. Right? A variety of passenger profile, can be business, can be leisure, the infant to the elderly, and those with medical risks. The problem is there are people who are not aware they have medical risks, or people who are aware they have medical risks but they don't declare, right? So problems are encountered at check-in, at boarding gate, in the cabin before departure, or when in flight they get what's called in-flight medical emergencies, or in short IFME, the in-flight medical emergencies. Right, so to prevent this, we advise our passengers, you have medical problems, get the medical clearance. Pregnant ladies, people with food allergy, people who are dependent on portable oxygen concentrator, and so many other things. So there is an established process on this, and it needs to be done in advance. In last minute requests may actually cause refusal, or having you to fly on the next flight, and so on, right? We also have what's called a medical assistance program, MEDA in short, where passengers post-stroke, post-surgery needs to be stretchered from point A to point B, or babies who need incubator, or some wheelchair assisted, medically related, not mobility issues, but medically related, needs to go through this medical assistance clearance process. So we've done a few stretcher cases On average, we do 3 a year. Typically, London to Kuala Lumpur, or somewhere in Japan to Kuala Lumpur, or Australia to Kuala Lumpur, sometimes even a connecting flight, Australia, Kuala Lumpur to some location in India, and so on and so forth. Right. So there are a few colleagues, mainly in the acute care or critical care team, who assist us on this. Malaysia Airlines itself doesn't have that capability. We just provide the platforms for the retrieval or repatriation. Okay, so in-flight emergencies, how frequent does it occur? This was an old study by the main airlines in United States, to 11 to 12, if I'm not mistaken. The reference is down there. On average, it was like 1 in 605 flights. You get a in-flight medical emergency, right? So mainly syncopal episode, gastroenteritis, occasional cardiac event. Yeah. So our cabin crew are trained in first aid. Okay, but if it's beyond them, they seek assistance from doctors on board, passengers who are flying. They verify credentials, and if the doctor wish to volunteer, and they would give based on their knowledge as well as their limitations. Some airlines employ what's called a ground-based medical assistance, GBMAs. One of the known ones is called MedAir. They are part of International SOS. They are based in Phoenix, Arizona. Another 7-Eleven establishment there. Any airlines who subscribe to them can call. Their emergency physician will provide the necessary guidance to those on board. Yeah. There's also telemedicine. Some airlines equip themselves with ECGs, which can be transmitted, and that's been checked, and it appears to save diversions, it appears to save air turnbacks, and so on and so forth, right? You're going to ask me if Malaysia Airlines do that. We don't. Based on our numbers, our data, our risk assessment, we've not subscribed to any ground-based medical assistance at present. What do we have on board? We have basic first aid kit. This is the only mandatory requirement by regulators, and as well as the medical communicable disease kit post COVID-19 is made mandatory by certain administrators, yeah, EASA and FAA. We have dressing kit just to augment the first aid kit. We have the automated external defibrillator in all our jet aeroplanes, not in the turboprops, yeah, because the turboprops operate a shorter duration. We have the BVM, aviation oxygen, and also a physician kit. I have to thank my predecessors, Dr. Key, Dr. Daljit, Dr. Shan, Dr. Khairul, Dr. Ashok, who formulated this physician kit at present. I've not done any review on what's inside. Maybe in future I will possibly be guided by some publications on what to carry on board. Remember, the aeroplane, the commercial airline is not an air ambulance. We are not a ICU. We are not a hospital. We are not a medical center, right? We are a bus that flies, so an air bus. Okay, coming to the occupational medicine bit, I'm a bit ashamed to talk on this because this is not really my strength. We employ an occupational health doctor in our setup. But again, we are guided by OSHA 94, Amendment 2022, then other regulatory documents as well, right? The USAC and noise, chemicals protection, and so forth. So the aim is the protection of the workforce. I just did onboarding on about 110 personnel this morning. My emphasis to them is the company's responsibility to protect you, but you yourselves have the responsibility to obey or abide to the SOPs and procedures of the company, yeah, to be safe. So it's a shared responsibility. I don't have to talk about the classification of hazard maybe, but in the aviation sector, noise is the one, heat and cold, especially when you're operating in temperate climates. Radiation, we carry a bit of radioactive material. under the dangerous good regulations. Chemical, obviously, aircraft painting is the number one. Petrol, oils, lubricants, biological aircraft waste, human bodily fluids, psychosocial, mental health, fatigue, stress, operational tempo. It's there, something that from time to time, but also from the commercial aspects. People in the finance, in procurement, in marketing. Is the workforce is not only operational workforce. There's also the non-operational workforce to be taken care of. Ergonomics, as I sort of briefly stipulated earlier on example of the Viking. Yeah. So all is based on risk management, the hierarchy, the controls, and so on and so forth. The biological monitoring, pre-employment is important, is critical, and also the periodic assessments of hearing, chemical risk, confined space, and so on and so forth. Ionizing radiation, that's under the Atom Act and regulations. We have a small radiation safety team that looks into that, and the radiation scanners, the non-destructive testing engineers, technician also undergo medical examination under this Atom Act. Okay. Fatigue for the ground workforce is based on the Employment Act 1955, and they are also taught about fatigue and also on submission of fatigue reports. Again, risk matrix, the hierarchy there, I do not have to explore on that. And public health, okay. All of us experience COVID-19. Will there be a COVID-29? I hope not, but at the pace the world is going, I think we will have some form of another pandemic in near future. We are governed by the International Health Regulation, 3rd edition 2005. I think WHO is looking into this to update. Really, it's about prevention of the spread of communicable disease by the aviation sector, mainly the airlines. Yeah. So since SARS 2003, 2003, ICAO and WHO formed a collaboration, what's called a collaborative arrangement in the prevention of health events in civil aviation, or in short, it's called CAPSCA. You see that round diagram there. That's CAPSCA. It's engagement mainly by ICAO, WHO, but involving all the stakeholders. Yeah. The regulators, the airlines, the other stakeholders, interested party in the aviation sector. Okay, I put down a list of outbreaks or public health emergencies of international concerns that we went through. SARS there, influenza, MERS-CoV is still there. MERS-CoV in Middle East, Saudi Arabia. We probably get 1 or 2 cases of MERS-CoV from the pilgrims who are coming back from Hajj this year. Last year we had one, according to the KKM report. People still go to camel farms. People still, eat camel meat and drink camel milk and things like that. So from our side, the airlines have advised the tour operators, the package operators, to avoid taking the pilgrims to camel farms, right? Mpox is still ongoing, but since it's not airborne transmission, the risk is low. So mitigation measures to prevent mosquito, we have this disinfection. If you find Malaysia Airlines at the end of international flight coming back to Malaysia, KKM wants us to do this disinfection process. We use approved chemical to spray the cabin before the door is open, yeah, at the top of descent. Then there's disinfection, which got overboard, I think, during COVID-19, because the basics is actually to wash your hands and clean your hands. Yeah, organisms, except for a few, may penetrate your skin, but in large they don't penetrate your skin. So you can touch soil or contaminated surface provided your skin is intact. All you need to do is wash your hands, and before you wash your hands, do not touch your mouth, nose, and eyes. Yeah. And fumigation, rodents can be troublesome. Yeah, they can of course carry leptospirosis. In those days, maybe carry the ones that cause the plague, but unlikely. More of the leptospirosis, but they also are a safety risk. They might bite on the cables in the aeroplanes and so on. So when that happens, then you have to seal the aircraft and fumigate the aircraft, or you can call the pest control and they do the traps to traps the rodents or rats. Yeah. Other areas, catering, food safety, practitioners, catering suppliers, food preparers have to undergo or get the certification of hazard analysis, critical control point certification, aircraft laboratory service. The workforce needs to be injected with typhoid, wear PPE, potable water, water quality analysis, work facilities, cafeteria, dengue, food poisoning, and so on. The top three things are managed by the safety and health of the business units. From time to time, my unit will oversight that things are carried out. And they are also audited by the regulator. Coming towards the end, on talking a bit on military aviation medicine, that's my colleague there, Lieutenant General Datuk Dr. Zulkifli Majuso. We went for our basic aviation training together. Now he's the Director General of the Malaysian Armed Forces Health Services. He is with our Colonel-in-Chief, Tuli Yang Mulia Sultan Perak, Sultan Nazrin. I think it was a visit to our facilities, the altitude chamber. I still refer our, although I'm retired from the armed forces now. Yeah. So what do they do at the military aviation setting? Again, a tripartite arrangement there. There is the director of Institute of Aviation Medicine, now General Haiza, as mentioned, set standard as per the Chief of Air Force Directive, formulate and review policies, audit, appoints flight surgeons, conduct assessment, fitness, chief of the RMAF Medical Board, right? At the Institute of Aviation Medicine, they do the FMED and program implementation. There's aerophysiology, centrifuge training, altitude chamber training, ejection seat training, and also spatial disorientation training. The support the Air Force in medical support needs. About a week ago, we heard of Hawk aircraft had skidded off the runway in Alostar. I think my medical colleagues would have been there to support and also possibly be involved in the investigation of that incident. Yeah. At the bases, 8 flying bases, there are what we call the base flight medical officer or base flight surgeons, as the Americans call it. They provide the aviation medical service and other services of general practice and community care. This typically of a setup in most Commonwealth forces. Yeah, we inherited from the British Royal Air Force. So just some pictures of aeromedical examination at the clinic, the aerophysiological training, the altitude chamber on the left, and the centrifuge on the top at 12 o'clock. The ejection seat trainer at 3 o'clock and the spatial disorientation trainer at 6 o'clock. So it's a pretty capable institute. We've trained Australian Air Force pilots, Indian Air Force pilots, Philippine Air Force, quite a number of forces that comes for training to the establishment. As mentioned, operational support, they help in the evacuation of some of the Palestinian children last year, as well as now the disaster in Myanmar is about to close up. They would have assisted in the evacuation or deploying of staff to Myanmar. And another example of aircraft accident there. So ongoing issues in aviation now. We're talking about aging pilots in civil aviation. The retirement age is 65 for pilots, but as soon as they hit 60 and above, the medicals every 6 months, and they have to pair with a co-pilot that is younger than 60 and no medical risk, right? pilot mental health, October 22, 2023, there was a pilot who freaked out, took magic mushrooms, sat in the cockpit as he was in the jump seat, non-operating pilot. It was basically getting a ride to his destination, and he pulled the fire suppression lever, which could have shut off the engine. And he realized his mistake. He was pushed out from the aircraft, asked to sit at the back, and he wanted to open the door, emergency door, right? So he's been charged on this 83 counts in US. Space tourism. Anybody know the lady there, Katy Perry? She flew 14 May on New Shepard, the Amazon Jeff Bezos spacecraft, right? For about 11 minutes. 4 minutes they were above the 100 kilometers von Karman line. So what is the medical standard there? PACS mental health. Yeah, we don't. People can buy tickets online and just board the aircraft, right? This was the case 2 years ago in September. Pakistani in origin Australian who took our flight going back to Kuala Lumpur, and from Kuala Lumpur taking a flight to Oman. He was psychotic, and we had to turn back and land the aircraft. Other things in future, they are talking about single pilot operations. What is the risk there? The pilot community do not agree. The medical community is looking into this deeply. What is the risk assessment on single pilot operations? Air turbulence injury, you heard last year in May. Unfortunate for SQ, one death of a heart attack, and more than 20 injured with spine injuries, head injuries, and put your belts when you are not needed. At all times, basically put on the safety belts, right? Climate change and many various factors to air turbulence and air turbulence injuries. Something of interest, aerotoxic syndrome, described in 1999, still cannot be proven. There's that acute fumes event, which we acknowledge. Some people may have symptoms, but this is a challenge on chronic exposure to fumes in the aeroplane, right? So if you Google up, there's a big debate on this aerotoxic syndrome. There's a grouping that is for it. Of course, the airlines are resisting that theory at this stage. Like I said, is there going to be a COVID-29? We do not know. We hope no, but we better be prepared for it, right? So in aviation medicine, is a multidisciplinary practice, yeah, and the career pathway is dictated by the governing body in the civil aviation, as alluded earlier on, and typically is divided into a regulator position, designated medical examiners, and airline doctor or doctors, right? And from the military perspective, really at the chief's office and Institute of Aviation Medicine, and at the base medical clinics. Okay. Yeah, these are some of the references. The slides can be shared, organizers. I don't have anything here. That's all for me. Thank you for listening in. I hand back to our moderator, Dr. Faiz. Thank you to answer.
Thank you very much, Datuk Dr. Razin. Very insightful, a very interesting presentation. I think we will go to the agenda before this. I'm sure our audience is almost, I think, at one point 150. Even now we have Datuk 149 audience. I think a very interesting topic that attract this audience, Datuk. Anyway, my first question to you, Datuk, because I'm very close to Army and Armed Forces. Myself is a basketball coach for the Armed Forces. So we know that your background is actually, you are actually ex-officer or Brigadier General of Armed Forces. So what's the difference, Datuk? In terms of aviation medicine, right? We know that some of, candidates can come from the Malaysia Armed Forces. So my first question is from me, do you need specific, capacity or character, whatever, to be a prodigy of aviation medicine, Datuk? That's the first question. So what's the difference between the civilian aviation medicine or the armed forces aviation medicine practitioner?
Right, Dr. Faiz, thanks for that question. So for aviation medicine practitioner, it's really a lottery. You know, the human resource dictates where you are assigned to, posted to, and of course along the way you can ask for assignment to an Air Force base or whatsoever lah. In my case, my interest initially was to do ENT. I was in a infantry unit in 15 Malay in Miri. It's just that my training officer called and said, "Hey Razin, do you wish to go for this aviation medicine course?" I said, it was in US, Texas. I said, okay, I'll go. Later, I realized 3 candidates before me didn't want to go. So I went and I came back, got interested. The thing with aviation medicine, it's a community practice and it's about serving, serving your community, be it the military or the airlines. And you are not the glamour person, right?
Yeah.
The glamour person are the pilots. They are the prima donna, the
Yeah,
fighter
okay.
pilots and whatever. Yeah? So you must have that passion and also perseverance to serve the community lah. Okay, it's not easy. It's a hard job, especially when you work in an organization or for an organization. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Good
there
to
are
hear that.
questions, Dr. Faiz, from
Yeah,
Dr.
I think
Ibrahim.
Dato, before we go to question, let us recap a bit on our schedule. Maybe our Dr. Jasima can actually project back. So we have done with the presentation by Datuk Mohammad, Dr. Mohammad Razin, and we will proceed with the question and answer. And at the end of that, our session today, we're going to have 2 QR code where you actually will need to actually scan it. Number one is actually for our to register interest in our ACOH 2026. And also the second one is MMA CPD scan lah. So we will also share to you our promotional video. Okay, let's go to the question and answer. The first one, Datuk. I think we have one from Dr. Ibrahim. Dr. Ibrahim, the first question from Dr. Ibrahim actually asks about any difference between fitness for work for pilot, short and long distance, and across different type of aircraft. So is there any difference in terms of fitness for work, Datuk?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Dr. Ibrahim. If I may know at some stage where you work at, but there is no difference in terms of the medical standards for fitness for work for pilots, short or long distance or different types of aircraft. So if you are going to hold a license for commercial pilot license or air transport pilot license, CPL or ATPL, that is under medical class 1. You have to meet that medical class 1. If you are going to do a private pilot flying, which is medical class 2, then you have to meet the standards medical class 2. There are not much differences in that. This is at entry level, initial entry level. Along the way, people may get some form of illness, which put limitations to them. We had a case of a senior pilot 330 who was discovered having hokum, but his risk for sudden cardiac death was low because he was already past that age, no family history of sudden cardiac death, and if you ask the cardiologist, those are the risks involved. So the board and the chief medical examiner and that assessor at that stage reduce his flight time limitation just to reduce his risk from able to fly 12 hours to London to 6 hours to maybe just China. And so it's based on that risk assessment, but it's very rare in that sense. But coming back to the question, there are no difference. It's either you meet the class 1 medical standards or the class 2 medical standards across aircraft types. Can be jet, Boeing, jet, Airbus, helicopters, and so on and so forth.
So there's another question by Dr. Ibrahim. Are medical test flight a common practice to assess pilot who might have not met the full criteria for category 1 fitness?
Yeah, the medical test flights are done occasionally. This is based on either the airline doctor, who is also a DME, wishing to do the workup before the case is sent to the Chief Medical Assessor at camp, or when the case is sent up to camp and camp is not satisfied with either mobility and vision, then the airline doctor is requested to arrange with flight training for a simulator session for the pilot. A typical simulator is 4 hours, but in medical flight tests, sometimes it's reduced to 2 hours because the criteria is pre-flight checks and pre-departure checks, after takeoff checks, and all those things. So, and then we get a report back from the instructor or examiner, and that is being pushed back to camp in that sense. Yeah. So it's done, but it's not in all cases. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Datuk, maybe if you can open your camera, let's try. Maybe everyone want to see who is Dr. Razin here, if possible.
Well, it's not possible. I don't know. Today
okay.
We tested out yesterday. My real apologies. We tested out yesterday, was okay, but today so I didn't want to fiddle too much and sort of
no
lose
worries.
you guys.
Okay.
But I can assure you I've lost a bit of weight from my poster.
Okay, Datuk. So another question that I would like to actually ask about the fatigue management. We were talking about fatigue management, right? And we know that aviation medicine, in fact, the airline industry is one of the so-called high-risk industry or high-risk job category. So if we can take some concept of fatigue management in aviation medicine, where we can fill into industry in manufacturing and so on, what you're talking? What can you suggest on this? Because we've been talking on this fatigue management in the oil and gas and so on. So if we can, use whatever from the aviation medicine, which incorporate into the other industry, is there anything that you would like to advise?
Yeah, it needs to come from the stakeholders, even from the policymakers. So we have that civil aviation regulations, is in the regulations about fatigue, and it's also in the civil aviation directive, obviously, right? So the flight time limitation is stipulated there. It's a legal thing, okay? It's a safety thing, it's a welfare thing, and it's also a revenue thing. So the operators need to comply to the directives and regulation. Okay, we identify that fatigue is a hazard. We acknowledge that. We have a policy on that. We have the fatigue risk safety action group. We educate, create awareness, encourage reporting by the crew, both flight crew and cabin crew, on the potential hazards of fatigue, and it's no blame reporting, right?
Yeah, it must be top down.
Yeah. Everybody needs to be mature and engaged about it. And me, before I was in the military, right, we are very operational oriented. Of course, safety is there, but I've never been to an organization when it comes to coming to the 12th hour where the pilots no longer have their hours to fly. Of course, they can have that extension of 3 hours, but if they are fatigued and they've lost that time window to depart, so they can step down and nobody can say anything. Because of the both of the symptoms as well as the regulations that covers it.
Yeah, it comes with awareness and commitment. Okay, next, Datuk. The next question by Dr. Premanandan. Do all the airlines under MEFCOM have a hearing conservative program?
Yeah, what's this? The physical hazard, occupational health hazard is really under covered by the DOSH, right? Is covered by the Department of Occupational Safety Health. So if you've been, I'm sure all of you have been into an aeroplane. The aeroplane, when it's inside, is not noisy, right? The noise levels are much lower compared to when you're outside. So those who exposed to the noise are actually the ground personnel, the engineers, whoever works around the aeroplane, but not in the aeroplane. So the Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia doesn't encroach into the regulation of noise and hearing conservation programs and whatsoever. So it's left for airlines. We on pre-employment, we do a risk assessment, those who are going to be exposed to noise and those who are not going to be exposed to noise. But for all employees, we do initial audiogram for them and advice on hearing and whatsoever. But the operational staff, especially the ground operational staff, we will do as per the regulations lah, in terms of the noise monitoring, in terms of PPEs and whatsoever. With example, we received the new aircraft Airbus 330 Neo, right, recently. So we've had to do the noise risk assessment at our airports where the Airbus 330 operate.
Yep.
So as an example, yeah, and the workforce are educated on that.
So there's no exemption on that. Okay, Datuk, so there's a last question by Dr. Abu Hassan. Are the cabin crew adequately trained with the basic of medical emergency? And normally what method and how train on this medical emergency?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Abu, for the question. So they are trained adequately in the basics of medical emergency. At initial 84 days of cabin crew training, 74 is service, 10 is safety and medical. So safety 5 days and medical 5 days. Safety and medical, they have to pass. I think only two answers wrong, something like that.
Yep.
So, and then annually, they have to do what's called their safety emergency procedure. 2 days of safety and first aid, CPR. Okay, so it's under austere environment, but they are not nurses, they are not doctors or paramedics. Although we have 1 or 2 cabin crew who are nurse qualified. Yeah, but it's an austere environment, so you can't expect your normal bedside resuscitation, put it that way. Yeah, but
Okay.
You ask me, are they adequately trained? Yes, they are.
They've been trained on that. Okay, Datuk, I think there's 2 questions, but I just summarize it. This is the last question. If let's say one young doctor want to be and do aviation medicine, is there any what is the method way of doing that, and what is the challenge that you face when as an aviation medicine practitioner, Datuk? So these 2 will be your advice to the young generation or to the doctors who want to be in this field.
Right. Yeah, it's a good field, but it's a very small discipline, right? Small practice. I would encourage the young doctor to do a clinical specialty first, of your interest, and then venture into something like aviation medicine, right? Or you can do critical care, air ambulance, and things like that, right? So as the pathway I showed you to become a designated medical examiner is such, get your courses and apply to camp with some background experience and whatsoever. Airlines, all airlines are looking into whether it's regulatory required or not. The airline doctor position is not regulatory required, right? So depends. Some of the airlines, legacy airlines, they used to have big medical centers, but the paradigm shift is to outsource those services. Okay. So
thank you very much.
yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much, Dr. Razin. Very insightful, very interesting topic. And I'm sure this is just a teaser for everyone. We will, of course, bring Dr. Razin anytime for next session. Thank you again, Datuk, from bottom of my heart on this presentation. Okay, the next agenda, we will move to actually our promotion. Before we go to our promotion video, maybe Dr. Jasima can help me on that. Let me introduce or let me brief a bit on what is ACOH 2026. So basically, this is the 24th Asian Congress on Occupational Health 2026. We call it as Shaping a Sustainable Future, Global Perspective on Occupational Health. The 24th ACOH 2026 will be taken place from 5th to 8th August 2026, which is not so long, is next year, at the BCCK, Borneo Convention Center, Kuching, Sarawak, Malaysia, under the theme Shaping a Sustainable Future, Global Perspective on Occupational Health. So this Congress serves a premier platform for expert practitioner and researcher to exchange insight, discuss emerging challenges, and explore innovative solution in workplace health and safety. So by fostering collaboration between academic and industry, ACOH 2026 aim to drive meaningful advancement in occupational health, ensuring safer, healthier, and more sustainable workplace across the region and beyond. Maybe we have this video on this. So let's enjoy the video for ACOH 2026, everyone. And wait for the QR code, yeah, for CPD too.
This is a new horizon. One we'd never imagined. In a land as old as time lies the ancient wisdom of mankind. We are all in search of something greater, to find meaning in the mysteries long forgotten. What if we went back to where it all began and reconnect with our origin? Now feel the rhythm of Sarawak. This is our prayer for the world. May you come alive even in the stillness as you awaken to newfound senses. May this life be a more immersive journey for as far as you wander. Sarawak, your journey begins here.
So on behalf of the ACOH 2026 Organizing Committee, we invite everyone to join us in Sarawak next year. So how do you actually show your commitment and your interest into this? Let's proceed to the next slide, which is our QR code. We're going to have more webinar, complimentary webinar. I think we have altogether 13 webinar, very interesting topics, very interesting and very experienced speakers are going to be there. So guys, please, who are keen to register your interest here, please scan the QR code. So we will be keeping in touch with all of you. We will send you all the detail, all the link on the webinar, and we will actually send you all the brochure on our ACOH 2026. Okay, so this is our ACOH 2026 QR code to register your interest. Okay, I give you a few seconds to actually scan that. So if you scan this and send your register your interest. We will send all the detail, including our not only ACOH 2026 event, but also our complimentary webinar, where especially for the doctors or who are keen to venture into occupational health, want to know and want to listen and hear about what is occupational health, what topics in the occupational health, you can actually be with us in our webinar. Okay, so the next one is our QR code on the MMA CPD submission. So you guys can actually scan here. We will get your detail and put in your detail. So we will manually register your participation in this webinar this time around. So you will get the CPD point. Okay. So we give you a few seconds to scan the QR code. So while waiting for that, on behalf of the organizing committee for ACOH 2026, we would like to invite you once again to join us in Sarawak. Okay, next year with ACOH, we will make sure that it's going to be very interesting and memorable event for everyone. And we also would like to invite you to join all our webinar, because I'm sure it's free. Apart from that, the most important, you can actually get whatever knowledge that you want. Okay, and on behalf of the organizing committee and also myself, I would like to apologize. This is our first webinar. In case for all the technical issue, whatever, we will try to improvise in the next webinar. So I would like to thank all of you for your time. We hope that whatever that you gain from the speaker will be beneficial for everyone. And on behalf of the organizing committee, I will also like to thank Datuk Dr. Razin for very good presentation. I'll see you in the next event. Thank you, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.